I'm going to share some things with you. I'm going to begin by being honest. Sometimes we get more nervous talking to a group of students like you than I used to when I went to a trial. Because when you go to a trial, that's your home. You understand the courtroom, you know everything. But then when we speak to you guys, you're always afraid that what if they don't like you? What if a tornado flies off, you know, and hits you? And what if you remember forever for all the wrong reasons? So I wrote things, and I wrote things, and I went to the other side, I heard the speeches, what am I supposed to speak? And I threw it all out, and I said, well, I'm just going to speak. And if tomatoes fly, let it be. My students always in my evaluations tell me, great professor, but he diverts. Because I always have a story. Sometimes it's more important what we tell you as a story. Sometimes it's more important than what you just heard from this young lady, that learning a rule of law. Because the law, you're going to learn it. But how you are, how you succeed, how you feel, you don't learn that in school. So they don't understand that. They want to hear the law, but we never. So I'm sure I'm going to do the same here today. I met the next speaker, and already she's wonderful, and I'm glad that I'm first, because that will be a real problem. Well, let me start with the first one. There is this little town where there is a wise man who always gets everything. So this young man tries to challenge him. And the old man calls him up and says, I hear you want to challenge me. He says, yeah, what challenge me? So the old man took a bird. And he said, I want you to tell me, when I close my hand, if that bird is dead, or if the bird is alive. So he would close his hand, and he would ask the young man, tell me. If the young man said the bird was dead, he would open his hand, and the bird would fly. If the young man said the bird is alive, you know, the bird's alive, he closes his hand and crush the bird, and open it, the bird will fly. And if he says the bird is dead, he would open his hand and fly. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind for the moment. I could talk to you about the application process, but I'm going to tell you about the struggle. The struggle you will go through as a Latino. The prejudices, the misconceptions. I remember well when I started practicing law, the attorneys, I already had done civil rights litigation, marching and all that stuff. They would come to me, hi Fernando! And I knew the game. The hi Fernando was to see if I was nervous. They wanted to hear my accent so they could figure out, I got this one. So what I would do is I would shake their hands and I would say, I'll speak to you after the trial. I'm getting busy. In about a month, nobody else asked me. Nobody else said, hi Fernando, how you doing? Because the word was out. My law school, University of Minnesota, which by the way, you just give it advice. When you're applying for a law school, look at the philosophy of the law school. Look at it, because otherwise you may be at a law school that doesn't fit you. And it's terrible to be in a law school that doesn't have your convictions. There's a school in Texas that now emphasizes intellectual property. It's Texas A&M. If you don't like intellectual property, you will be miserable in that law school, because that's all you're going to get. So take a look, not only at the name of the school, but take a look at their philosophy. I teach at Thurgood Marshall School of Law, which is a historically black school, voted almost every year as the most diverse law school in the United States. In 2006, 90% of all the licensed attorneys, 90% of all the licensed attorneys in Texas went to Thurgood Marshall. 50% of all the Hispanic licensed attorneys in Texas went to Thurgood. So it's a diverse school. This year is 60% African American, 29–30% Hispanic, and the rest others. You cannot walk 3 steps where there is not somebody with a background, Vietnamese background, or African background, Caribbean background, Mexican background, at University of Texas, UT. So it might take you half a day before you come across somebody from Nigeria. That's the diversity. So if you don't treasure diversity, and this happens in our law school. Students come because it's the cheapest law school in the state, correct? And sometimes they're uncomfortable because being a historically black school, what are you going to hear about? The plight of the African American, the plight of Hispanics. The same thing, it was a Hispanic law school. What are you going to hear there? You're going to hear about segregation in the schools, bilingual education. That's what you're going to hear about. So it's important that you look at the history of the school. Look at the mission. Because I, who went to Minnesota, ranked number 17th on Harvard, if I had not felt comfortable, I would have preferred to go to a school with a lesser reputation if I was happy. So it's important that you study the school's background. Study it. I went to Minnesota to study undergraduate school for only 2 reasons. One, that year there were severe riots at the University of Puerto Rico. That's when they shot a young lady that was watching a march where they burned her out to sea. Just like that school where they shot the young lady. The police was shooting in the air. She was in an apartment upstairs and she got shot. The school closed for about a year. My mother said, "Why are you going to stay here? You're not going to go to school." So I took my flight, went to Minnesota, never left the country. It went from 85 degrees to 50 in September. My mother and I pulled out the coats from the suitcases, coats. People were skating on the shorts, looking at us, probably guessing these are migrant workers. That's how it felt. I did not go there because I took time to figure out the philosophy of Minnesota. I went there because I went to a school that was run by an abbey in Minnesota, in St. John's, and the school in Puerto Rico was one of its derivatives. And when I was in high school, I was in wrestling, track, football, debate, Future Priests of America, Future Farmers of America. I was in the choir. It was a men's school. I was a cheerleader. I was in everything. And they liked me. They figured out that's a good token. And I thanked them. I didn't have to fill out an application. You know why? The principal filled it out for me because he wanted me to go. Graduated from Minnesota, went to work with Maldev, and I learned so many things about our community. High dropout rates, overcrowding in the schools, targeting lines, so that the Mexican-American community, the lines were, the gerrymandering was so bad that everybody in one of the districts could vote. Everybody in that district can still not elect a person. So I had done that after going to law school and going through hell. Not the school work. Not the school. I remember I became the first Hispanic president of the Law Student Association. Remember now, because you need to follow your path. Everybody, I don't know anymore, but I think it is, all my friends that were Hispanic, if you run for the student council, you're a traitor. You're a traitor, you're selling out. And I said, hey, I'm running. And I was in charge of the honor code. Professor charges a student who at that point had a 3.9. He charged her with cheating because there was an extra test. And he said the handwriting was the same. We found it wasn't the same. So when we got out of the hearing, he stopped me in the hall. Told me, you never amount to anything. You're the worst excuse for a lawyer. Go back to your community, become an advisor, but you will never be an attorney. You know what I've done? When I pass the bar exam, I send in the results. I'm not done. When I got the job at Harvard, I sent him the letter. Every article that I wrote, I sent it to him. When I got my master's in education, I sent him a copy of the diploma. The LLM, sent him a copy of the diploma. When I got my job teaching, I sent him the letter. When I got promoted for full professor, I sent him. Now, he didn't think I'm a stalker. Or he knows, or he remembers my name. I think that the latest is the one. Because he had no idea who I was, he didn't care. And so, but I still do that. Why am I telling you that? Do I want you to be troublemakers? No. But you have to feel what you are. And you have to truly believe in what you are. I remember the first day of law school, there was a sign that says students of color, me. The speaker was a third-year student, and he spent the whole time telling us, you are going to be community organizers. Don't worry about grades. You need to survive law school because this is a racist institution. That's all you need to do. They didn't tell me about teaching. They didn't tell me about the possibility of teaching. They didn't tell me about law firms. And by the way, he graduated Order of the Coif. Grades are not important, right? But he graduated Order of the Coif, would meet the top 10% of the country, and he got to be a judge. But that stuff sticks with you. It sticks with you. When I applied for the job, because before I got my degrees at Harvard, I got a job teaching there. The clinic. The job description said, 7 years experience in immigration. I had none. And my wife and I laughed. When I put the application in the mailbox, we laughed. Just wait till they get the application. They're going to fall down laughing. Oh, look at this guy. Colon, no experience, and he wants to teach at the law school. 3 months went by, and so I got a letter telling me I was a semi-finalist because of my work among them. And before I knew it, I had a job at the Hollywood Clinic, where I met Nicaraguans, Salvadorians, Dominicans. It was the best experience in my life. Problem was, I liked the teaching part better than the clinic, than the court. I had 130 clients, but I loved meeting with the students and talking to them. And I said, well, maybe I should be a teacher. Give me a name of a person that was Hispanic, let me tell you his name, who was supposed to be the godfather. If you want to go to law school, yeah, teaching at law school, you call this guy. So I called him. And his question was, what you got? And I said, well, I just finished a master's degree in education. I've been director of the Harvard Clinic for 4 years. I just finished an LLM. And he said, call me when you have something else. Hispanic. So I said, well, yeah, the hell with it. And I applied, ended up teaching To me, the best law school I could have taught in. Been there 27 years. And don't regret one moment. So, be what you want to be. I'm going to repeat something the prior speaker said, which is very important. Don't forget where you came from. But at the same time, don't let it overwhelm you. Period. I think that's what you need. You never forget who your family is, your family, where you came from. All that, don't forget that. But don't let it be a weight on you. And that's important because I see that every day in my law school. I'm Latino. That means I have, in Texas, Latino are discriminated. It's true. But you never forget you're Latino. But at the same time, use that. Use your experience. Because you got more than I ever had. Make a difference. You don't understand how many times I've spoken to my class. I remember one day, being who I am, and being the low rank, and being the Hispanic one, the faculty, I'm the one that takes all the burdens. But they don't realize that they don't punish me. I love it. Punish me, because I love it. And I ended up teaching in the same year. The contracts professor left to become president of the university. The civil procedure professor quit. So I was assigned on the same year, property, civil procedures, and contract. The three of them. You don't know that yet, because you're not in law school. But teachers that teach one complain. And I'm teaching contracts, the bar exam result came. 45%. So the students were all depressed. It doesn't matter. Why should we stay in law school? We're not going to make a difference. So I said, just like I tell you, the stories, right? I said, close your books. And I reminded them of a story, a young man walking down the ocean, and there's thousands of shellfish, thousands of something being thrown on the shore, and they're struggling and dying. Thousands, millions. And down the line, he sees a kid throwing them one at a time. And he said, well, are you nuts? I can barely walk, there's millions. What good does it do to throw one? And you know what the kid told him? It made a difference to that one. It made a difference to that one. So whatever you're going to do, if you like it and love it, as little as it may be, one client, one Nicaraguan made a difference, didn't it? One Dominican made a difference, didn't it? One Salvadorian makes a difference. One person that avoids the death penalty, one makes a difference. It makes a difference. Why am I telling you all this? Well, I'm telling you all this because I thought 2 days ago, you know what? I can talk for 25 minutes about the application process, of how difficult it is. You got that from your speaker. She told you everything. She told you everything you need to hear about the LSAT. She told you everything about the personal statement. She told you everything, and I added. Understand the mission of where you're going. She told you she went to a school because she wanted to do what? Business. And she picked that school for that reason, didn't you? You know my point. Now, you can change, right? They told me so much in Minnesota that I was going to be, my role was to be a community organizer, that I bought that and I thought I was going to be a community organizer. I went to work at Legal Services. I went to work at Moldev. Nobody told me that there's a path to teaching. I like teaching, but I kept going, well, nobody told me about it, right? Nobody told me about it. So you might change. I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney, nothing else. All this stuff about depositions and, exhibits and juries. I said, that's stupid. I want to be a criminal defense attorney. Until I did an internship at the Public Defender's Office. I got out there and said, never again. Never again. Hated the courtroom. Hated how people were treated. I hated it. Said, I don't want to do this. And I ended up doing depositions and all those stuff that I thought I hated and loving it. And loving it. Make a difference. I ended up teaching by an accident. I was doing what I thought, community work. And then I realized I like teaching. Now, I ended up in a school that ranked number 4th in the country. Right? That was a problem for me because I'm happy. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm driving my car at 5 o'clock, and I'm playing salsa music. I love going to class. I'm the kind of law professor that twerks in the class. Twerking, that's right. When my students are 8 o'clock and half asleep, they're like this. I said, okay, I'm going to twerk. There's a concept in torts, which is personal liability, that if you scream fire in a theater, you're liable because people are going to start running and hurting each other, right? And that's a liability. So I said, no, you don't scream fire in the theater. So this torts professor came to me and said, Fernando, stop working because you're going to have the same liability as if someone screamed fire in a theater. I tried to stand on a table to jump on the table and I missed one time. I sing songs. And the other professors think I'm not a professor. When I was out there, I was talking to, thank you very much to the folks that put this together. It is amazing. It's amazing. And they're looking at me like, this guy's nuts. So, I'm a hyper child that was never treated. But I'm going to tell you something. I love my job. I started in psychology, and almost after finishing a master's degree, I said, the hell with this too. I ended up where I am. And let me give you one more thought, because your next speaker is going to really crack you, right? My mother was a single mom, 3 jobs. I did not see her in a week, except between 6 and 7, because she had a job. She never sat and spent time like I am with you. So, like with my son. Life is this. Life is that. Be careful. Never did that. But watching her, I learned. She was a public school teacher. And she told us very clearly she would work 3 jobs so we did not go to the public schools. She didn't have to say it, that the public schools were not, at that time, where she wanted her kids. She never said that. But it struck me that why is she teaching there and she's spending money to send me to a private school? There must be something wrong with the public schools. Never said it. And I learned something that I think I'm going to leave you with. Whenever you make a decision, it is always the right decision. You know why? Because you make it based on the facts that are available to you at that moment. So you decide to come to NYU. 2 weeks later, you find New York horrifying, and you want to go. You didn't make a wrong decision. Because had you known that, guess what? You would have never made that decision. So whatever happens after you make your decision, doesn't matter. Be comfortable. Make a decision. And it's the right decision. You know how I decided to leave Harvard to go to Thurgood? There were 3 schools that offered me a job. Like I prayed to God and my mother. I said, oh, please, give me a hint. I didn't want to go to Texas. Because after Texas was cattle in the streets, cowboy hats, guns in the classroom. Now there is, by the way. The state had just passed a law allowing carrying in the classroom. But I said, what am I going to do? My other job was at Notre Dame, which was my dream since I was a little kid. But then after living in Minnesota, I said, I don't want the Midwest anymore. So I said, can you see it? I always get up and my wife says, good morning, and I say, good morning. How are you? I'm fine. Did you say good? That morning, the first thing that came to my mouth was, maybe Houston is not that bad. And I said, okay, when you make a decision, it's the right decision. Carol, I'm moving to Houston. That was my decision. And I told her, if we get to Houston and we hate it, we'll make another decision. So, if you can take that, because the most difficult part is not the LSAT, is not writing your statement, because you can get help. Is making that decision. Should I be a lawyer or should I be a social worker? Am I doing the right thing? Should I go to New York or should I go to DC? Should I go to UCLA or should I go to Thurman? That's the hard part, making that decision. Because you're here, you will be admitted not only in one school, but you will be admitted in several schools. I know that. Because somebody that takes a Saturday to come and listen to a poor immigrant like me, and that's why I am a poor immigrant, even though I'm from Puerto Rico, has motivation. And I suspect that if I talk to each one of you, there's something impressive about you. So the problem is not getting admitted. That's why everybody's saying, oh, we don't like only a small percent gets admitted. Oh, you know what? I don't think that's the problem. The problem is making that decision. It's so expensive. Do you know what nationally the rate of applicants to law school has dropped by 30%? There's a law school in Charlotte that closed because there are not enough students. My last thing to tell you. Remember my story when I started? Remember the story about the bird? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you got facts. You got people talking to you. You got all these things. The bird is in your hands. You can crush it, or you can let it go. But it is in your hands. Thank you.